Hello lovely boys and girls, this is Mr. Bedley and I'm going to be teaching you Excel lesson for 4th grade, lesson number 29. We're learning about estimating, whoa, didn't mean to do that, there we go. Learning about estimating standard measurements. We're learning about measuring things using regular old standard measurements. It's a pretty tricky lesson. You might want to watch it 2 or 3 times to really get it in your head, and you might want to bookmark this lesson so you can come back to it as you get stuck on your assignments in the future, because you don't want to just guess on these things. You want to really understand it. So first, before we get started on the lesson, I'm going to give you a little joke here, a little riddle, and you'll have to stay tuned. I'll give you the answer later on in the show as to the answer to the riddle. So the riddle is, why did the clock in the cafeteria always run a little slow? Why did the clock in the cafeteria always run a little slow? So think about that. I'll tell you the answer later. Right here it says, over time, standard units of measure have been developed. What that means is that over the history of the world, they had to come up with ways of measuring things that everybody agreed on. What if one person came along and measured this line right here and said, oh, that's about 2 inches long, using their ruler. And somebody else came along and said, well, according to my ruler, that's a foot long from here to here. And then somebody else came along and said, well, actually that's a mile from this point to that point. Well, the measurement that we use, that would be about 2 inches from here to here. It's not going to be a mile or a foot. And so they had to kind of come up with some different ways of measuring things that everybody agreed upon. So we're going to learn 3 different kinds of measurement. 2 of them are seen right here on this page, and then we got a 3rd one coming up later on. The 3 different kinds of measuring that we can do is we can measure for distance. That means from one point to another point, or length, we might call that too. So how far is it from here to here? That's one way to measure. Another way to measure is to measure in weight. So how much something weighs, how heavy it is, would be weight. And the 3rd way is to measure what we call capacity. There's a big academic vocabulary word for you. Capacity means like how much space something takes up, like liquid in a container. And so let's go over one of these at a time. First, we're going to talk about distance. Oh, the other thing I want you to know is that there's 2 ways of measuring. There's 2 different systems of measurement. In the United States, we use what's called the customary. Nope, I'm not going to fit that. That's all one word. Customary measurement system, or the English Standard System, sometimes it's called, and then the rest of the world uses what's called the metric system. Okay, so there's 2 different complete types of systems of measuring things. So for distance, weight, and capacity, all 3 of those are going to have customary ways of measuring and metric ways of measuring the exact same thing. So first we're going to deal with distance. That's located inside these rulers here. And different ways of measuring distance include inches, feet, yards, miles, centimeters, meters, kilometers. Those are all ways to measure length or distance. So let's take a look now at some examples of how big these things are. Okay, first of all, we have an inch. If you take a regular jumbo paper clip, not the little miniature ones, but the regular size paper clips, from here down to here, that's about an inch, 1 inch long. The other way I measure it is I use my thumb. If you smash your thumb down from here across to here, it's about an inch. For you guys, that might be a little smaller than an inch, but on my thumb it's about an inch. And then how long is a foot? A foot is about from your shoulder down to your elbow. Take a look at your shoulder and your elbow right now. From there to there is about 1 foot. Not exactly, everybody's different size, but that gives you a basic idea. How long is a yard? A yard is about the distance across a door, on a pretty good sized door. If it's kind of a skinny door, then that's definitely less than a yard. But a pretty decently wide door is about a yard from side to side. How about a mile? How far is that? You know what a football field looks like, right? With all the lines on it. And then you got the goal posts at the end, right? Okay, if you take 15 of those, which I'm not going to draw right now, and you put them side to side, down, length to length, 15 of those is about a mile. It's pretty far. And then a millimeter is the thickness of a dime. So it's really small, like from there to there. You set a dime down and you measure how tall it is. We're not talking across this way. No, no, no. How thick it is. That's 1 millimeter. A millimeter is hardly anything. I mean, it might take like 5 pieces of paper to be a millimeter high. And then a centimeter is the width of a large paper clip. So from here to here on that same paper clip that we talked about, it's about an inch this way, but it's about a centimeter going across this way. And then a meter, that's about how tall it is from the floor up to the top of a chair that has a big back on it like that. It's about 1 meter. And then a kilometer is about 9 football fields. Like we talked about before, it's not quite as a mile is longer than a kilometer, but a kilometer is only about 9 of these put end to end like this over and over again. So it's pretty far. Okay, the next thing that we're going to learn about is how to measure weight. So you can measure weight in the metric system using grams and kilograms. You can measure in the customary system using ounces, pounds, and tons to measure weight, how heavy something is. A slice of bread, if you put that on a scale, it's going to weigh about 1 ounce. Very light, hardly anything. So you're only going to measure weights of very small things using ounces. There's no point in measuring how heavy a ship is in ounces because it would just be way too big of a number. A soccer ball weighs about 1 pound. And a walrus, those guys are big and they're heavy, is about 1 ton. 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. So that's about the weight of what a walrus would weigh. Okay, now that was the customary system. This is the metric way of measuring things. In metric for weight, we have 1 milligram is about a grain of sugar. I mean, it weighs hardly anything, a milligram does. It's so just light. A gram is also really light. A gram is the weight of that same paper clip that we've been talking about. So you can imagine, a paper clip doesn't weigh much of anything. That's a gram. A milligram takes 1,000 milligrams to make 1 gram. So a milligram is equal to 1,000th of a gram. It's hardly anything. And, you only measure things like how heavy a piece of medicine, like a little pill that you take. Those would be measured in milligrams. And a kilogram is about the weight of a textbook, like a big old math book or something like that. It's about equal to about the same as 2 pounds, pretty close to that. But it is equal to 1,000 of these. You notice the pattern there? We got 1,000 milligrams makes a gram, 1,000 grams makes a kilogram. It's very easy to remember. Okay, the third way that we can measure things is in what we call capacity or volume. And volume can be measured, or capacity, in cups, pints, quarts, gallons. That's all the customary or standard ways of measuring it. Metric system uses milliliters, liters to measure things. And we're going to take a look at some examples of what that would look like. Okay, so these are the customary measurement system for volume. Let's start off with the smallest one, a fluid ounce. 1 ounce is hardly anything. It's just like a little sip of something. That's 1 ounce in terms of fluid ounces. Now we do have ounces that are also weight. And that's very confusing, I know, but a fluid ounce and a weight ounce are 2 different things. And then a cup, you might drink like a small cup of milk. That's what that is right there. That's 1 cup, which is equal to 8 fluid ounces of space. And then we have a pint, which is actually 2 of these. So you have 2 cups in 1 pint. And then if you double that, and so you end up with 4 cups, that's like a quart. These tall, skinny milk containers are a quart. And if you take 4 of those, 4 quarts, just like 4 quarters makes $1, 4 quarts is going to make a gallon. Okay, now we look at the metric system for measuring capacity or volume. And so you have 1 milliliter. That's just like a little tiny sip of water, kind of like an ounce. Would be what you would see inside of an eyedropper. A liter is like, well, you know the soda bottles that we pour soda out of, those are 2 liters. So half of that is a liter, or like a large water bottle is about a liter. And a kiloliter, which we don't talk about very often, is like filling up 8 trash cans, 8 large trash cans full of liquid. That would be a kiloliter. And again, each one of these is 1,000. So 1,000 milliliters is equal to a liter, and 1,000 liters is equal to a kiloliter. Okay, now let's try doing a few problems here. I want you to pause the video, do 1 through 3, pick the answers down below that you think are the right answers, and turn the video back on to see what the solutions are. Okay, so a dog, you should have already done these now. A dog might weigh 7 grams. That's like 7 paper clips. That's not enough. 8 pounds? Yeah, a dog could weigh 8 pounds. Dog is not going to weigh 9 tons. That would be 18,000 pounds. There's no way a dog's going to weigh that. A family car might be 4 yards long. That's like taking 4 doors and putting them next to each other, and then the distance from here to here would be what the car is. Well, that one makes sense, so that's the right answer. 5 centimeters long? Why is that wrong? A centimeter is the width of a paper clip. So if you take 5 paper clips and put them right next to each other, are you going to have a car from there to there? There's no way. 6 kilometers? Each kilometer is 9 football fields. 6 times 9, that's 54 football fields long. There's no way a car is that, so that one makes no sense either. A child might drink 3 pints of milk, 4 yards of milk, or 5 gallons of milk. Let's work backwards on this. 5 gallons of milk, that's 5 of those big jugs. Child's not going to drink that, not in one sitting at least. 4 yards of milk, there's no such thing as a yard of milk. That's distance. We're not measuring distance, we're measuring volume here, so that one can't work. 3 pints of milk, a pint of milk is equal to 2 cups. That would still be a lot of milk, but that one's the only one that makes any sense. Okay, now what I want you to do is pause the video, do these as fast as you can, and then turn the video back on to see the answers. Okay, so you should have done 6 divided by 3 is 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And before I go on, let me tell you the answer to the riddle. The answer is that the reason that the clocks were running slow in the cafeteria is because every lunch they would go back 4 seconds. They would go back for seconds. They'd go back for seconds. You get it? Like they go back and get more food, which is like 4 seconds. Okay, anyway. 20 divided by 5 is equal to 4. 18 divided by 3 is 6. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. Thanks for watching.